People say the world is dying. Populations continue to fall, while plague and disease run rampant. If that wasn't enough, monsters called Shades now roam the land as well, threatening our very lives. My sister is sick, and my only goal is to ensure that the two of us survive.
Nier Replicant is an action RPG developed by Cavia and published by Square Enix. It's a remaster of the Japan-only version of Nier released in 2010, and this takes place before Nier Automata. The game is known for its emotional storytelling, unique structure, requiring multiple loops of the game, and deep philosophical themes. You play as a kind and determined young man, referred to by fans as Nier, he's not actually named in-game, who is trying to save his terminally ill sister, Yona, from a mysterious disease called the Black Scrawl. Along the way, he teams up with a magical talking book named Grimoire Weiss.
For the last time, my name is Grimoire Weiss, and it is not to be abbreviated.
A fierce warrior named Kaine, and a cursed boy named Emil. The setting is dystopian, a decayed civilization blending sci-fi and fantasy with dark creatures known as Shades causing problems wherever Nier goes. At first, the game seems like a traditional quest to defeat the monsters, collect magical sealed verses and find a cure, but after a major time skip, the story shifts in tone and complexity. As truths unravel, you learn the world is not exactly what it seems. Like, seriously, the game goes from this to this real fast. Story's what really drives this game. While the gameplay is definitely serviceable, it's the narrative, themes and characters that really hook you into this one. Yoko Taro, the creator, is known for making games to explore ideas and emotions rather than just for entertainment's sake, with a lot of his stories revolving around two sides to the same coin type delivery. A lot sets this game apart from others, but tonally, it's that every story, and I mean 90% of the subplots, are fundamentally tragic, but not entirely hopeless. The world itself is morally grey, and almost all themes touched on, loss, identity, guilt and love, are all stained this colour. It uses interactive storytelling to explore themes no other medium can handle quite the same way. It doesn't just tell a story, it makes you part of it, and then forces you to live with what that means. In this video we're going to be diving into Nier and exploring this story, including all different loops, the 5 endings, and we'll keep a little counter for every time a story is sad. Expect spoilers, grab a box of tissues as we dive straight in. The game starts out under unusual circumstances. Snow falling as we pan out into a ruined city street. Something terrible has happened here, cataclysmic for this level of damage. A brother and sister are cowering in the remnants of a convenience store, a disembodied voice coming from a book beckoning the brother to accept its power. Monsters break in and the child's left to defend himself with a steel pipe. As he shares a voice actor with Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, he doesn't actually struggle at all.
Damn, how many of these things are there?
Though the sister seems in much worse shape, sick and barely able to move. More waves of monsters come until the boy is struck down, and in an act of desperation, he accepts the book's help, selling himself to whatever devil is contained within to protect his sister Yona. By merely touching the book, the boy is able to call forth a great flaming hand to swat away the shades here. We then get to grips in a pseudo-tutorial of the combat and magic systems, where we can hack and slash to our heart's content, using the bumpers to cast magic independently of our pipe swings. We make short work of a giant horde of shades, the power of the book simply incomparable for them, even slashing down a big boss shade, and the combat is quite fun in this game. Nothing's too hit spongy until a bit later, and everything's hard enough that it doesn't feel like Dynasty Warriors. With them vanquished, we can return to our sister, and the tone completely shifts from bombastic combat action to more muted numbers as she goes to hand us a cookie she found, her sickness starting to overcome her.
Yona! Yona!
Oh no. I'm sorry, I dropped the cookie.
Turns out she'd used a copy of the Black Book to try and help us, but of course things didn't work out as well for her, the power seemingly killing her instantly. Nier calls out for help as we pan away, nobody alive to actually help us. 13 minutes of gameplay down, probably 10 seconds of the video, and we can add one to our sad stories counter. Choir singing backs the camera as we see the whole city is in ruins, not just this street. Then, almost out of nowhere, text rings up, 1,412 years later, to what looks like a medieval building, with rustic looking versions of Nier and Yona at home. She's still sick and we have a sword now. None of this adds up, but it will later. We're entering the post-apocalypse and the people have rebuilt. The village we live in is a small walled off affair patrolled by guards to keep the shades away. A woman named Popola appears to be the village headswoman, and we make a living performing odd jobs for her in the town. Nier and Yona don't seem to have any parents, so Nier is the man of the house, so to speak. Visiting Popola for the first time, it's clear she's a very caring woman, almost a mother figure to Nier. At first she asks us to go and hunt some mutton for the village, but then this motherly nature's realised when we get back and she asks us to buy some herbs for her, but she gives us twice the amount of money we would need. Quoting her directly,
"Right? Besides, everyone here wants to see Yona healthy and happy. So hang in there, okay?"
I will.
This might be the end of the world, but community has been rebuilt. People are looking out for each other, and it seems like a lovely cosy place to live despite the poverty everyone's subjected to and the monsters outside the walls. Heading out we go, and put a smack down on some sheep for the mutton. We've no access to magic, but a sword is much more impactful than a pipe. Shades appear with Nier alarmed at how close they are to town. It's unheard of for them to be so close. Something strange is going on, and it's clear we're in this time period for a reason. Return the mutton, buy the herbs, and head back to Yona, and we listen to her tell a story about a legendary flower, a lunar tear, so rare you could sell it for a fortune, a pipe dream for two poverty-struck children, one of them being deadly sick. We put her to bed and go on to our next job to clear some shades from a wooden bridge on the northern plains. Carpenters were attacked, but if we clear the area, more of the overworld will open to us. The game's establishing a baseline that the shades are a nuisance to humanity and that Nier is a capable fighter who will do anything for his sick sister. We go and put the smackdown on some more shades. These ones are even bigger than the last. Returning home reveals that Yona, despite being a pallid little sickly child, went out looking for a lunar tear while we were gone and hasn't come home. This obviously rustles Nier's jimmies. Popola had been asked about lunar tears by Yona, and she harmlessly told her they used to grow at a lost shrine. That's where we'll be running to next, and the plot can actually start progressing. Yona's hair ribbons at the eastern gate to confirm our suspicions that she went looking for a lunar tear. Yona doesn't actually get too much screen time, but when she does, it's used well. Something the devs do a good job of navigating is keeping the players invested in Yona, and in pretty much all the load screens we'll see pages from her diary, building her character a bit more. The Lost Shrine itself requires winding through a rocky passage in the mountains to reveal essentially the remnants of a ruined city, tower blocks, or at least the remnants of, flanking this huge stone monument in the centre, this big reservoir. It's unclear what this place was, but it has some significance to the citizens after the apocalypse. And this almost monastery-like singing in the background as we climb it, wrapping around this huge tree of life type thing, really establish we're somewhere holy to someone, even if those people aren't with us right now. We essentially climb up, fighting shades between locked doors as we advance, and it's got your typical dungeon format with a few puzzles that are really just push a few blocks around as we climb up, making it to the roof. Skirting around the exterior of this ancient concrete structure. Vines growing to reclaim it. You're given a sense of wonder. What is this place and what was its purpose? As we blast through the top, we get an inkling of that purpose, finding Yona laying at the back of a room behind some magical force field. Ancient sigils swirling, two statues stand guarding a book suspended in the air, their pole arms almost highlighting the book. We decide to smack it free. It looks like a white version of the book from the prologue, and the mere act of freeing it destroys all the shades in the room, though seemingly activating the statues that were guarding it. However startling it is, the book talks to us and tells us it is Grimoire Weiss, and he's alive in some sense of the word, asking us not to smack him again.
For the love of all that is holy, would you please stop pounding me?
The Grimoire is our first party member, and he doesn't make any bargains with us. He's happy just to lend us his power. He's a prim and proper book, demanding respect not just from us but from the creatures around us, as he grants us the ability to fire magic at them. Smacking him around has removed some of his memory, but he's useful enough and incredibly charismatic for someone made of wood.
Magic indeed. This is the true power of Grimoire Weiss.
Nier has never encountered magic, but he's happy to wield it, especially as the statues fully come to life and begin attacking us. Our first boss fight, Hansel and Gretel. This obviously signifies we're not playing the same Nier we were in the prologue. As far as being a combat game, there's enough meat on the bone for some strategy when we attack. It's a dodge, parry, magic swordplay system. What works best is just holding down the magic the whole time though while you swing away, parrying and dodging until you can work up some big finishing moves. Trying not to hurt Yona as we do so. The fights are exceptionally cinematic, with that anime level of drama and damage. We blast the statues down with little resistance. Running to Yona's aid, waking her up and fleeing the place before it collapses. Yona breaks our hearts here by being sad she couldn't find a lunateer to help us out, as the black scroll appears on her and we rush back to the village. Weiss confirms she has the black scroll and reveals the disease will spread across her body, eventually consuming her. He advises us to let her sleep as we vent outside. We've gained a new companion, but our sister has gained a terminal disease. Add 1 to the sad counter. We speak to Deviler, Poplar's sister, and she's heard of Grimoire Weiss and her ballad tunes, but doesn't seem too freaked out about his presence. In fact, no one's really reacting to this floating book, it's very strange. She reveals some details, that a terrible black book appears and spreads disease across the land. The white book's meant to save the world. There's not much detail, but going to Poplar gets us more. The white book uses his sealed verses to purge the calamity the black book brings. When we ask what a sealed verse was, she doesn't really have much clue, but it does resemble some sort of magic. We assume we can collect Weiss's lost powers and cure Yona. Up until this point, these were just words in a ballad song, but Nier is a very cheery, power of friendship kind of guy. It becomes clear the sealed verses may be hidden within giant shades. We begin our quest to hunt them all down. Poplar knows some are gathering in a nearby village called the Aerie, and it may be our best shot at our first sealed verse. Act 1 of Nier will revolve around us gathering all these sealed verses, but you're free to go and explore side quests or loot hunting, and I'm going to be beelining through the main content in this video, occasionally touching some side bits where important to the story, but really trying to condense this very long story as much as possible. The Aerie is Nier's first foray out into the world of being a professional shade hunter. It's where we'll meet the warrior woman I mentioned back in the intro.
Weiss? Why's that lady in her underwear?
Until we unlock a form of transport, we're forced to make a long run over there, being harassed by shades the whole time. But it does give Weiss and Nier time to talk and build a relationship.
I guess I won't use you for kindling after all.
Getting over there, it's a lot quieter than we'd expect a village to be, with a hermit shack deserted on its outskirts and no one around. Despite rail tracks leading in, the whole village seems to be built across a giant chasm, with the houses being these tin huts dotted around the mountain walls, suspended by some rickety looking wood scaffolds. I'm at a complete loss for what this place could be or why people would settle here, and to be even more annoying, the chief's house is really far away. It's super high up and the opposite side of the village from us, leading us to smash through a ton of shades and climbing to get up to it. When we interact with any of the villagers in their huts, they're all terrified, refusing to leave their homes and accusing us of being agents of the shades. It seems like a desolate and dogged place to live. The only bit of non-scared dialogue we get is one villager saying Kaine must not be brought to the village. For whatever reason, they're more scared of this Kaine character than the shades. Getting to the chief's hut, we're hoping for some information on the sealed verses, but instead we're all but banished from the place.
Well,
Be gone!
Wait, listen to...
Enough. Leave this village at once and never return.
The people of the Aerie don't trust anyone, especially not strangers, and it seems like a whole lot of climbing around for nothing really. No strong shades, no information, and so we decide to head back to Poplar and figure out a new plan. Only, en route, our gaze is drawn to the hermit's shack and a ring of flowers that could be those mythical lunar tears. Before we get our mitts on them, a woman appears in full lingerie. She seems to have some scrawl crawling up her, and deducing she's a shade, we start a fight with her, much to her disagreement. Kaine's an excellent fighter with a loud mouth to match.
Son of a bitch. I knew this would happen.
Though as we start smacking into her, she's overcome with some dark magical force. She's definitely not like us, there's no book flying around her, but she can cast magic alongside her attacks. No book needed. We sap down her health bar and then something strange comes indeed. A giant shade looking more like a BOW from Resident Evil. The two decide to join forces against the shade in an unspoken alliance as we lay into the thing, and it's massive. Kaine wants us to stay out of it as she's called dibs on this one for whatever reason, though it will take the both of us to take it out. We blast it down, avoiding its shockwave attacks until, in a moment of cinematic flair, we're saved by Kaine as she takes a massive hit for us. Her body not really registering the impact, showing just how strong she is, and she fires off a huge blast of energy at the thing, causing it to run off and, well, for Kaine to collapse. While she's laying there, Weiss reveals she's possessed by a shade, existing both between worlds and accepted by neither. We drag her to her bed and watch over until she awakens, though she's incredibly abrasive when she does.
Sorry we attacked you. We thought you were a shade.
Well, you're half right. Now get the hell out of here.
Kaine warns us that nothing good will happen if we stick with her, and despite fighting together, we're forced to leave with her telling us to stay away from that giant shade. Again, it's hers. Kaine's forced to live on the outskirts of the village due to her possession, and well, other things we'll get into later. She doesn't tick over our sad counter just yet. We head back to Popola, having gained our first sealed verse, The Dark Hand, but having just chased the giant beast off rather than killing it. Popola tells us there's a place we could go to upgrade our weapons, and that'll be the site of our next quest. At this point, players will want to go and do side quests to build up some cash for that. Things like gathering medicinal herbs, boar asses and the like. Then head to the junk heap, a mysterious metal scrapyard in a fantasy world. We pull up to the scrapyard, crossing the northern plains again to meet Jacob and Gideon, two boys who've made a living producing weapons using the scrap of the junk heap. Jacob is the finest smith in these parts, probably the only smith in these parts. The junk heap was an old world military base, and the current denizens have no clue what its actual function was besides that, but there's plenty of scrap and robots inside that one could make a living off of. Before we can actually make use of the smiths, the boys have a problem. Their mum has been missing for the last 7 days looking for scrap, with this taking a particular toll on their youngest child, Gideon. Our goal is not initially to find the mother, but to find some upgrade materials. Damsels in distress will come later. This is one of the areas they blend fantasy and sci-fi specifically, as the camera pans out to what looks like a giant foundry rather than a military base. When we get inside, it's a concrete fortress patrolled by, as Weiss says,
Unstoppable machines.
the junk heap is very much a series of corridors leading to combat encounters, the robots themselves not being too complex at this stage of the game. Activating shock prods, they'll try and roll into us, so you just need to get around them and hit them in the back. Still, a bit dangerous for those two kids to be diving in here and looking for scrap. There's also the question of at what point did humanity get robots and for what purpose? I'll let you know that it was due to the whole apocalypse we saw nearer to the prologue, and we'll touch on the specifics later. Dive through the junk heap, and for parts of this section your camera will go top down. A fun thing about this game is they experiment with different gameplay styles for each area, blending different genres. The junk heap becomes almost a top-down arcade shooter. There's other sections that play like a text RPG, or an isometric dungeon crawler like Diablo. There's platforming, puzzlers, you name it, it's in here. It's a very unique approach that doesn't overstay its welcome but keeps a lot of variety in the game with fairly basic combat by modern standards. We get a little joke about warping after running around the place for long enough, where Weiss reveals the danger of such magic.
All of the sages who attempted said spell were reduced to mincemeat when they struck obstacles in their path.
With our upgrade materials bagged and a mountain of other scrap from the robots, we return to the swordsmiths. Their mum hasn't returned, ahead of us, meaning she's probably deeper in the junk heap. Gideon is howling about his mum being gone, and given the tantrum he's having, we decide to play hero and go deep into the junk heap to rescue her. It's slightly annoying that we have to trace back the exact route we just took, but furthermore, the deeper we go, the more powerful the robots will be. Some of them start blasting magic at us, the rest come in huge droves, and thank God for the dark lance being able to pierce enemies, or this would just be a nightmare. There's a lovely cart top-down shooting section too, and I thoroughly enjoyed the junk heap, even if I'm forced to gloss over it here. The gameplay, the set design, it's a really cool area, weirdly futuristic but not at the same time, blending old and new tech. Throughout the whole jaunt, Weiss isn't confident the mum is alive, given the resistance we've faced getting down here and the lack of robots being destroyed ahead of us. But Nier has that anime protag level optimism.
Miracles don't happen if you don't believe in them, okay?
Miracles.
After blasting through more robots than I can count, we enter a huge atrium with an intruder warning alarm glitching around in the background, and a disembodied head and hand start floating from the ground. The boss of this area has some very fun weak spots, only being vulnerable on its palms during its first phase, and shooting lasers from its fingertips. Crack through one health bar and it will summon in a load of robots and turrets. They do seem to be one-shottable though. Then it launches rockets at us, only pausing to fire a giant laser, wherein we need to throw bombs into its mouth. It's a simple but fun boss fight, the mechanics easy to learn and nothing too punishing. The bombs we throw were used to clear paths earlier in the zone, so you've got that loop of an old mechanic being used in a new way. After its second health bar is gone, the thing blows up without little context to its purpose or why it was here. We do find Mommy Dearest in the next room though. The mother died alongside a male, seeking to leave her children to find comfort in the arms of this guy. Possibly the worst outcome, the mother's not only dead, but died on her way to abandoning them. We can pick up a perfume bottle to give to the children, but I'm adding one to the sad counter. We tell Gideon she's gone to heaven, and he storms off not believing us, and not really wanting to hear the truth. Jacob asks if she died alone, and it turns out he knew she was leaving to be with her man. He's strangely at peace with this. She lived a troubled life, being torn between the responsibility of her kids and wanting to follow her heart. He's comforted at least by the fact she died in the arms of her love, but it's a very bittersweet ending to this section. We did the right thing by telling them the truth, but the boys only have each other now. We've unlocked another sealed verse, Dark Gluttony, which can absorb enemy magic attacks and fire them back, but I think I used this a total of one time in the whole playthrough and switched it out after. With that, we head back to the village to check on Yona. She's in immense pain, and so our next goal is to go and get her some medicine, going to Popola for advice. The Black Scroll is advancing at a furious rate, so hopefully we can save her before it takes her out. We don't have any conventional medicine to deal with Yona's pain here in the new Middle Ages, but if we head to Seafront we might be able to get her a shaman fish. Its liver is a potent painkiller. This involves a short trek across the southern plains where we can save a village guard under attack and get a weapon from him that's arguably worse than the one we already had. Then we hit the Seafront village with a lovely panoramic cutscene showing the place. I know these are grim prefab concrete structures, but it's giving me some sort of Greek island vibe and the way it looks like Lindos in Greece. We need to blindly blunder around looking for our fish, with Weiss advising we talk to some townspeople for advice. It's not very well mapped in this area. Of course, a lot of them have nothing to say about the issue, especially the ones near us when Weiss gives us that prompt. Eventually he will point us in the right way if you take too long, and we can find a fisherman who sets us up. We then have to catch one ourselves with a little fishing mini-game, and you can do this and there's some quests around it as well. When we go to return, the owner of the nearby lighthouse stops us, complaining about the postman who's not delivering her letters. She essentially strong-arms us into checking on him, with her and Weiss arguing. You can say no, but when you get back to the house, Nier has a change of heart and asks you to go back, so you might as well do it now. We dash to the post office and grab her mail, and a letter for Popola, doing a short puzzle in the back for a treasure item. The old lady's letter seems to be from her husband, or wife, who's gone away to sea and yearns for her. Popola's letter's from the mayor of Seafront, mentioning that the Aerie's gone quiet and there's shades there again, so we'll probably have to head back and smack some around. Climb the lighthouse, give the old bint her letter, and then head back to the village and get stuck in an optional bus fight you're way too unskilled for. So you end up game overing and having to run through again. Eventually defeat it, then we go home and give Yona her medicine, giving her an actual chance to talk to Weiss. She gulps down the fish's liver, then the introductions happen. As he's saying his full name, Yona interrupts.
I am Grimoire Weiss, wielder of arcane.
Oh, hi, Vicey.
Now see here.
Despite hating his name being shortened, I think he secretly likes her charm. And in one of these rare quiet moments, there's even a side quest we can bag where she'll make stew for us despite her inability to cook, as Weiss points out once we're outside. They really do a lot with the characters here. As with everything, we head to Popola to drop off her letter and get our next quest, back to the Aerie in the hopes of smashing down that big monster from before. Getting there, we're encountering shades immediately from the jump. They've got some new tricks, like some with magic-proof shielding, which weirdly doesn't come up often after this section. We do have Kaine with us this time though, and the three of us go to help the village out, encountering maximum resistance as we approach. There's no indication on why the Shades are attacking, but they're on their A-game, especially when we run out into the Aerie, and a rumbling shows us the boss from earlier climbing up the side of the chasm, and the thing's been bulking since we last saw it. On the ground you'd expect it would be easier to hit, but if you're not on your dodges you'll get tossed around like a wet noodle by the shockwaves the thing spams out. You get knocked off the platform a few times. Kaine also has an exceptionally dirty mouth as we go through this fight, and I'm here for it.
I'll tear out your goddamn eyes and piss in the sockets!
Good sweet lord.
It's nice to get a companion who can swear as much as myself. She may be cursed, but she is the most deeply human character we see. When it's taken enough damage, we use a cinematic magic attack to send it hurtling into the side of the chasm, taking out many villagers in the process, but well, Nier's never seemed to care too much about collateral damage. The rest of this fight is us navigating around the Aerie, fighting mooks between encounters, with Hook the boss monster, all while the villagers chat shit about us and Kaine. Even with us attempting to save them, they're still as antisocial as normal. Throughout all this, the villagers are calling Kaine cursed, and she says it's true. Regardless of this, we treat her like a normal person, and just before we can take Hook out, the creature releases a ton of mist, and actually begins to talk to us, well, to Kaine.
Kaine, it's me, Grandma. Oh, how you've grown.
Kaine, of course, doesn't believe the giant shadow monster is actually her grandma after the thing asked why she goes on living, and drops the fattest bar of the whole game.
You're going to stop talking now, and then I'm going to slowly walk over to you, cram my hand inside your goddamn bitch-ass chest, and pull out your fucking heart!
Kaine was very close to her grandma, the only person who seemed to love her despite her so-called mutant body. That's all the inspiration I need to take this thing down. The sad music ringing out as we jump up, summoning colossal fists and sinking one of the platforms of the Aerie, stabbing the creature on the spike that was supporting it. Kaine seemed to get knocked down across the chasm, Weiss believing she wants to die now that she's killed that creature, but Nier wants to save her, so we run over in typical anime protag fashion. Seeing from her perspective, she's sinking into an inky abyss, wanting to rest now she's avenged her grandma and the creature that killed her. Nier's voice splits through the veil, telling her not to give up, and with Weiss talking shit the whole time. When we tell her she's going to live, she asks what for. She's had her revenge and now she doesn't have a goal. Weiss chimes in like a good friend.
How can a fighter so skilled be cursed with such a thick head? A true warrior would fight. They would give all in the service of their friends.
Friends?
That's right. He's right. Kaine, we're friends now.
See here, that was hardly the point.
Kaine's happy to finally have friends, even if she doesn't show it outright, and joins our party permanently now. We tell her about Yona and our goal to get the sealed verses, and she knows of someone who had the Black Scroll too. A king whose kingdom may have discovered a cure, the kingdom of Facade in the desert. For once, we're finishing a section without adding anything to our sad counter, but I suppose these arcs aren't finished yet. For now, to the desert. We have to cut through the village where Kaine reveals she'll wait outside. She prefers being alone than surrounded by the villagers. But if we exit the village, she'll find us, whichever exit we go through. We do that, immediately coming into the desert where Kaine and Weiss fire barbs at each other.
Stranger than a boorish young woman who battles monsters in her undergarments.
Strangely enough, the enemies in the desert aren't shades but wolves. Not sure what sustenance they could gain here, but their pack leader does actually seem to be a shade. We get to the stone walls of Facade, the guards there dressed in strange masks. We think there's no way in, but the guards somehow know of Kaine and are happy to let us all in together. Facade is a strange place, governed by an uncountable list of rules and laws to the point of comedy. Because Kaine saved a kid from a pack of wolves years back, one of their rules grants her passage in and out. The residents of Facade don't speak the king's English either, with us having to go through a small side quest for Weiss to pick up enough words to translate. Facade isn't as much a kingdom as it is a big township, with a giant circular sand river providing transport around the place. We do a full loop, realising we can't speak to the king yet, to get a good look around before finding a girl who's collapsed and dropped a few fruits on the ground. She can speak in a sign language, which is really helpful to our cause as she gives us her own tour, making sure we're aware of the rules the citizens follow. Ridiculous things like one must do a full loop before the shops will open, or that shops can't be on the same floor as their owners' homes. We mess around, getting back to the castle and finding out the Black Scroll had killed the previous king, and now the prince is in charge. Worse still, the prince is missing. He was exploring a barren temple, so we decide we'll head over there to save him. The denizens of Facade are forbidden from going there themselves.
Oh, and what luck! We just happen to have an outsider who can't stop meddling in the affairs of others right here.
Fira, the girl who gave us the tour, leads us through the sandstorm of the desert until we get to the temple, the building arguably larger than the Kingdom of Facade. Throughout it is several rooms branching off a main corridor, many locked behind magical doors. As we enter each room, a different rule will be applied, limiting our available actions. If you break the rule, it will reset the room. This first one stops us jumping, for instance. It's a fun gimmick when Facade is themed on its ridiculous rules. We eventually come face to face with the child prince of Facade, the 93rd prince, and he's angry at Weiss's running commentary during one of the rooms.
The man is tasked to protect his people, and yet he's made them toil to save him. I think that tells us everything we need to know.
He then ends up breaking whatever rule had been placed on the room here and getting carried away by a floating block, leading us to pick up a chase. Kaine then gets angry at following all these rules and breaks one, getting herself grabbed too, swearing up a storm as she does. We then blast through a few more rooms, the rules getting slightly more complex as we advance, eventually culminating into some combat rooms with enforced rules as well, after which is a big crescendo against a boss made entirely of blocks. The Thing is basically a big warden, escorting the rule breakers out of chambers they shouldn't be in. Unfortunately, it's in our way and blasting magic at us. You need to use your magic to hit all the glowing red cubes here. It's almost more of a puzzle than an actual fight. The Thing takes many forms throughout this, the most dramatic of which is when it becomes a big stick man. Eventually you'll do enough damage and Kaine will come out of the woodwork and start smashing it to pieces. The only problem being, the Thing is unfazed and just reforming. We then go through the same process again, destroying glowing blocks until only a handful are left, and we use cinematic magic to finish them off. Turns out the king was in here looking for a mask, an emblem of the King of Facade. He needed it to ascend to the throne and lead his people properly. Quite a nice guy in general, and now indebted to us by the rules of his people. I'm sure we won't take advantage of that later. Nier introduces democracy, suggesting people should be able to vote on rules. He gives us a new sword, and he also thanks Fira. We've unlocked the Dark Wall sealed verse, and after spending a ridiculous amount of time away from our dying sister, we make a house call. Her pain has gone away thanks to the medicine, and we even decide to spend the day with her. Her little yay melting my soul.
Now,
Nier has a weird dream, and when we wake and speak to Yona, she's had the same dream. It's something to do with the Forest of Myth, an area we've not visited yet, and it's more of a couple of trees than a forest. We head to Popola, as we do with everything, and well, this letter here speaks for itself. The Forest of Myth is having some dream troubles, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. One of the side quests you can do involves slotting a boar on the northern plains. Do it and you'll unlock a transport option with this initial D boar here. It's amazing. Anyway, Forest of Myth. Head on in and the place is exceptionally cosy, with there being only a few people around and no shades to be seen. When we go and speak to the mayor of the town, he tells us to beware of the word somehow corrupting us with his speech. We've caught some sort of disease spread by words as the dialogue box fills the screen. The disease is called the Death Dream, and it causes those who catch it to fall asleep forever, supposedly. The text box entirely fills our screen, and we try to figure out which words pulled us into the Death Dream, all while Weiss argues with the text box, narrating the exchange.
It does not seem to sting my pride, you bloated gasbag of a narrat. It has demolished it utterly.
This section of the game emulates a text puzzle game. It's not the most interesting section for this sort of video, but Nier and Weiss go through a variety of well-described locales and answer several riddles to get out the Death Dream. There's several villages around, each with their own text adventures with a bit of variety to them. We just need to go do the mares to get a sealed verse, Dark Execution. We saw this in the prologue. And we head back to Popola. She sends us to go and fetch a contractor from Seafront to try and restore the canal in the village, hopefully unlocking fast travel for us in some way, shape or form. All the Death Dream stuff just seems to disappear after we've done this quest. This detour is entirely a filler quest. We go and meet the contractor known as Red Bagman at Seafront, who's upset his wife and she's gone missing. We do some searching around, even fighting some powerful shades, and getting flirted with in a tavern, before she comes back and we realise the man is just a bit dense. The couple have a tiff and we calm them down. The man can then start on the canal for us. This couple do become more prominent later, but it's definitely a comedy filler section here. We head back to Yona and she asks us for a favour. She's got a pen pal, a male who lives in a mansion down south, but he's also sick and in trouble. It's funny watching Nier wrestle with the idea of his sister having a boyfriend, and Weiss teasing him.
Great.
Is something amiss, lad? Your voice is trembling.
No, it isn't. Shut up.
We decide to visit this mansion, and it's south of the village. As soon as we cross the gates inside, the world around us turns grey for whatever reason, the backing track going quiet. A butler outside says they've been waiting for us, and it's a strange place, coming across as haunted potentially. The butler leads us in, and we see some ruined pillars, perhaps sign of some sort of scuffle. The backing track becomes a bit creepier than normal. We're led into a dining room with no explanation for the black and whiteness. We leave Kaine there to wait a while we try to dig a bit deeper. The black and white filter doesn't go away, the mansion seemingly stuck in time. The only things that stand out are in one hallway, a series of paintings are in full colour. We find a few locked doors but no route forward, so we go back to Kaine, only she's gone missing now. Weiss seems particularly unnerved by this place, seemingly superstitious for a floating book. We need to find Yona's boyfriend and Kaine now. Going back past the paintings, we can see they've all changed, becoming much spookier. I was expecting shades to rush me at this point, but they never did. Worst of all, a courtyard we pass through is full of people petrified into stone statues. This place is meant to be a horror section. Even if it isn't that scary, they do give it a good go, with us having to find various keys for locked doors like we're in a Resident Evil game, fight several giant spiders, and eventually encounter the master of the house in full noble attire.
You're a male. Young. Not even 20.
He's a young child, and he seems to be blind from his coverings there. He's around Yona's age, and we get introductions out of the way, as the blind kid didn't notice the book flying with us. The kid is called Emil, and he has no clue about the letters Yona received. Worst of all, as we approach him, he warns us that anything he looks at turns to stone, and to stay back. He does offer to help us track down his butler to get to the bottom of this letter business. None of this explains where Kaine has gone, but Weiss isn't worried about her, she's a capable fighter. We find a doll resembling the butler and search through various other rooms before we hear someone calling out for help. Then the shades make their way in, their blood contrasting with the grey walls of the place. Eventually we encounter the real butler, realising he was some sort of clockwork automaton all along. Turns out the butler wrote the letters, and he was after our help specifically to cure Emil's petrification. Apparently somewhere inside the mansion, but blocked out by shades. Given that we need to find Kaine anyway, and Emil is quite interesting, if not very mysterious, we're happy to help the little Gorgon, and we bring him along. He petrifies our enemies, which is absolutely busted. He's quite shy, but on par he's about as powerful as Kaine. We fight our way through the mansion, making our way to the library, allegedly where we can find a cure for Emil's condition. No sign of Kaine yet though, as Emil starts to fondle books and a crimson one comes flying out of the bookshelves with the same faceplate and design as Weiss. This is Grimoire Rubrum, and actually puts up quite a challenge as a boss, firing out razor sharp pages and generally being a nuisance, though the thing doesn't talk to us like Weiss does. Smacking down most of its health bar triggers the first cutscene, where Kaine just materialises in the room and starts fighting with us. When Weiss asks where she'd been, it turns out she was just lost as well. Emil at one point tells us to go before sacrificing ourselves for him, and while we're debating the morals and ethics of this, Kaine tells us all to shut up.
What? I'm just saying, if you bastards want to have a goddamn civilized discussion on the merits of bravery and sacrifice, we can do it later!
She's an encouraging lady as we fight on, eventually defeating the grimoire, the thing exploding into a load of falling pages seemingly written in some unknown language. The page we grabbed is entitled Research Report on Petrification. We grab a new sealed verse to boot. The butler somehow can translate the pages, and he tells us he'll make this his priority, as everyone clears out and we go to say goodbye to Emil in a lovely cutscene. Kaine is actually the nicest character in this game, as she comforts Emil about his eyes, empathising with him due to her cursed features, that this isn't a curse and he should be proud of his eyes.
Your eyes are not a sin. Don't ever be ashamed of them.
This all culminates in Emil giving some encouragement too.
I promise I'll never give up, Kaine. But you can't give up either.
Well, we're off.
All right.
We've not found a way to make him normal yet, but he's in a better position, and the butler's going to continue to send some letters to Yona to keep up the boyfriend act. We've got all the sealed verses, so all we need to do is find Grimoire Noir, and we can save Yona, even the world perhaps, as we head back to the village, getting a lovely panoramic of people living their lives under a dark, cloudy sky. We comfort Yona in bed, telling her we've got all the verses, but she's scared we're going to hate her due to all we're going through to fix her disease. We assure her that we could never hate her as we go to Popola for the last time in Act 1.
Yona, I could never hate you. I'm gonna go see if Popola has more medicine.
Yona's cough is getting worse, and the villagers just ran out of medicine. Popola wants us to gather some vapor moss, which we can find by the south gate. Finally, a quest that isn't across the whole overworld. We take a leisurely stroll over, seeing kids playing and old people pottering about, till out of nowhere our pal Emil is here, and he seems to be quite injured. We rush to carry him back to Popola's library, telling him to just rest. Popola believes it to be a fatigue-related injury, being as he ran here without using his eyesight. But Emil tells us the air's vibrating. There's hundreds of shades coming to attack the village, he can see them all. Before we can get out, we hear a loud crash and head to do our shade-slaying business. Weirdly enough, here's the first time I saw a load screen that wasn't one of Yona's diaries, this one talking about a disease, most likely causing the Black Scrawl. We'll get into those later. For now, as we exit the library, there's a cutscene of shades smashing down the back gate, and the guards not really able to put up much resistance.
It's not gonna hold!
We've no clue why they're attacking here, but we do know we need to stop them, as we herd Devila and the other citizens away while we swing. Almost on cue, things don't go as planned as a giant titan-sized boss smashes through the side gates and starts attacking the village. I love this fight and how they twisted an area we'd seen as quite mundane and safe up until this point. The shades are a constant threat, as they've been indicated to, and we're only several buildings away from Yona, so this is a real fight for our lives. The thing will send mooks out, but what we really need to do is wait for it to slam its hands down and then attack those, resulting in a nice cinematic where we could swing a giant fist at it and then tear off its arm. The thing not seeming to slow down its assault, as it just grows back and it starts to scuttle closer and closer to the library. The whole boss fight is amazing actually. There's nothing mechanically that stands out, it's fairly easy, but just the sheer scale of it and the way the whole thing is framed keeps it so theatrical. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Look where it's headed!
Like hell it is!
We herd it toward the library, and out of nowhere comes the third member of our band, hitting the thing with an attack that threatens to cut it in two. Kaine is so awesome. Do enough damage now as the thing crawls to the library, and we manage to take it out, pinning it down with Weiss's magic. It's at this point we hear Yona screaming from inside the library. We rush in to see the place filled with shades. Though Emil, the absolute boy, is here fighting with us. Despite the gang trying to ward him off saying he's exhausted, but he's happy to fight with us. A real bonding moment for the trio. Turns out the big daddy we killed earlier wasn't fully dead, the thing rushing in and knocking the boy out cold. We realise this thing's just going to keep regenerating for our attack, so we decide to knock it down into the basement where we can trap it forever. Though as we back out our big attack, smashing the thing backwards and stuffing it into the basement, something bad happens.
Give me the key!
Right!
No!
This must be the Shadowlord, leader of the Shades, and with the Grimoire Noir in tow as well. He's carrying Yona. Shades are bowing down to him, and before we can even register who or what he is, Noir launches some sort of electroshock attack at both us and Weiss, with Kaine unable to intervene without opening that basement door. Noir and Weiss speak, and the book has a buttery tone.
It's been a long time, Grimoire Weiss.
Who are you? What is this place?
I am Grimoire Noir. I am you.
Turns out the books know each other, allegedly serving some higher purpose together that Weiss has forgotten. Noir reckons they're both meant to serve the Shadowlord, and their ultimate goal was to fuse and set the Shades free upon the world. Weiss refuses to conform to this, but it's clear throughout our whole journey so far that it was all orchestrated by the Shadowlord, us meeting Weiss, him collecting the verses. Noir attempts to fuse with Weiss, but before he can, Kaine breaks out into this very vulgar speech.
Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry! Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in the goddamn furnace! How can someone with such a big smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadowlord, I love you, Shadowlord! Come over here and give Weiss a big sloppy kiss, Shadowlord! Now pull your head out of your goddamn ass and start fucking helping us!
Weiss slips back and forth through hypnosis, but Emil then starts to speak, saying it's okay if he forgets them because no matter what,
I'll keep the memory of Grimoire Weiss alive forever. And that's not all I'll do. You hear me? I'll chase you till the end of time, and I'll bring you back to us.
if Weiss is lost, then Emil will chase after him. It's speeches like this that give me goosebumps. It's a very anime power of friendship situation, as Weiss's memories of Nier start to play out right as Noir tries to absorb him. Before that can happen, Nier gets to his feet, one arm barely functional, planning potentially his final act to save his friend, a floating book. The mighty Grimoire Weiss. All seems lost for just a second before Weiss breaks out into one of the best speeches I've ever heard.
Weiss!
Good to see you, Kaine. Although I don't think anyone has ever accused me of being a little bitch before. And you, we meet again.
Weiss, you okay?
I believe I could ask you the same question right now.
Impossible. We must unite. We must become as one.
I don't like you, and I want nothing to do with you. Besides, I have my companions.
You're back!
Of course they're weak, and they whine when I leave.
Weiss!
It's almost too much trouble, but they are my friends. I shall fight by their side, now and forever.
Weiss, thanks.
It doesn't matter whatever godly purpose Weiss was meant to have, he's got his friends, and they are his friends, and that's forever. With renewed vigour, we stand to fight the Shadowlord, though without any of the sealed verses we've gathered, they've all been stolen from us. The Shadowlord disappears and we have to take out the shades around before we can lay our mitts on the book. An easy enough feat at this point in the game. It's a similar fight to Rubrum, only this time, as we hit thresholds on its health bar, we regather our sealed verses, taking back that which was stolen from us. There's an air of confidence to the fight and the music backing it. Maybe friendship's all we need to save the day here. I say that up until the final cutscene, where Nier takes an absolute bullet to stop Weiss from getting killed.
Weiss!
The book, the Shadowlord and Yona all flying away with us powerless to stop them. Stick one on the sad counter. Nier's left bloodied on the floor, and it dawns on us we've forgotten about the basement monster, with Kaine asking Emil to petrify her in front of the door to save the last of the citizens in the village. We've got no way of unpetrifying her at this point, and it's a rather bittersweet sacrifice given we've just lost Yona too. We're given the choice in a text box, but no matter what, we're forced to seal away the shade, leaving Kaine a statue in front of the door and Nier a bloodied mess. His last words before he passes out are a promise to save Yona and Kaine.
Wait for me, Yona. Wait for me, Kaine. I swear.
As Act 1 closes, we're sticking another one on the sad meter. Act 1 takes hours, Act 2 not as long, but following that we'll be doing several loops of Act 2 to unlock all the endings this game has, and things speed up drastically at that point. If you're enjoying the video so far and want to do me a favour, please consider subscribing. The majority of my viewers are unsubscribed people, and every little helps me and this channel. Anyway, to Act 2. Nier has grown up, being able to use two-handed swords, spears, and just generally having a bit more oomph to his attacks. The Shades have seemingly grown up too, wearing armour across their spiritual bodies. We'll need to take this out to actually damage them, and the combat takes a slight step up with that in mind, but you can navigate around it quite easily with careful use of magic. 5 years have passed and we've still not got Yona back.
It's been 5 years since they took my sister. I spent every waking moment searching for her.
We can also see the Kaine statue to show we've not fixed her either. Popola seemingly hasn't aged, which is a bit strange, but we'll brush that under the carpet for now. She's got a letter from Emil, who's got our next quest. We're heading to his mansion, despite being the go-to person for protecting the village, as he's got some sort of update. When we get to the mansion, strangely, Emil hasn't aged either. I guess he was serious about going to the end of time to find Weiss if he ever went bad. He actually reveals he can't age. Again, another one to brush under the carpet. Emil has found a note which reveals the mansion was used for some sort of experiments. No wonder it's all in black and white. There's a room somewhere with details on cancelling petrification and bestial transformation even. We've not seen an example of that, and spoilers, we don't. Whatever was being cooked up here was pretty heavy to say the least. We head to the courtyard to enter this planning room, with Emil in our party permanently now. The mansion section is all isometric, like we're in an old school RPG, think of Diablo or something like that. Again, another example of how this game blends different genres to add a bit of spice to various sections. The combat controls don't change, they're exactly the same, but it weirdly fits despite the view shift. There's a lot of fighting though until we uncover our next note. A progress report on number 6, a living weapon the National Weapons Research Lab had poured all of their funding into. We're in a magical research facility underneath a mansion, and the further in we get, the more ill Emil becomes, almost like his body is fighting his mind to get away from here. The area is exceptionally more modern, not falling into sci-fi realms and generally looking more like it was plucked out of time. It felt part Fallout, part Shadowrun, and it was quite a cool set piece. As we advance, I think the set designers did a really good job. Our next note reveals that number 6 was called Halua, chosen from 7 candidates, with Emil being named as being kept alive as a failsafe. These are all dated to the past, the 10th of the 11th, 2025. Emil has likely been alive since the time of the prologue without even realising it, or at least it not affecting him so heavily. As we reveal more about him being a weapons project, we let him know we don't care about his past. He's our friend first, it doesn't matter whoever made him to be a weapon, he's not one now. We breach into an inner sanctum and find number 6, and well, just look at her. At what point we stepped into Evangelion, I don't know, but this rotting corpse of a weapon is pinned against the wall by nails. The thing looks alien at best too. Emil instantly recognises it as his sister Halua, his memory somehow restored from this interaction. He used to be a normal human child, then the 7 of them came to this research institute to be turned into weapons. Against their will, presumably. Magical, horrid weapons, and number 6 was the perfect weapon, only held back by Emil's petrification after they lost control of her. Emil believes he can merge with his sister somehow, but he tells us if he loses control, we need to kill him, or essentially the world will end. No one will be able to stop him. He jumps right into her gullet. Number 6, as you can imagine, is entirely immune to physical attacks, firing out its own barrages of magic and jumping around the room in quite a crazy display, using magical attacks we've never seen before that seeming to have completely different projectile art to any other magic attack we've seen. Generally, the creature is very, very creepy and alien to look at. It ranks really highly on my cool meter. We do of course need to cut Emil out though before this goes west, pinning her to the wall and using magic to dispatch her so we can wake Emil up. We get a cutscene inside Emil's head where his sister is waking him, telling him she'll always watch over him. It's sad to see what these children went through and how different her body is after the experimentation. We can chuck one on the sad counter. Halua, after being pinned to a wall and petrified for God knows how long, is finally dead, and this is her final conversation with her brother. We rescue Emil. It's revealed his body is now entirely warped by absorbing his sister's power. Honestly, add another one to the sad counter. Hell, Emil breaks down crying and we hold him, his cold skeletal body looking nothing close to a human. Despite all that, he's our friend, and we're just glad he's alive and well. God, this game digs deep, and it's even sadder now that Emil can look at things, and this is the cost. These kids, both Emil and Nier, have gone through way much more than a kid ever should have to. This game is set in a cruel world, a real tale of characters struggling to survive in this hostile setting. We rush back to the library to save Kaine.
Interacted with Kaine. I was reminded about something from my past.
Emil has been getting on with Kaine for so long because he's been plugging that gap where his sister was. He unpetrifies our fair maiden, grabbing her as she falls to life. But before we can even greet her back, the monster from before comes bursting out of the basement. It's the exact same fight, but our skills and capabilities have improved in the last 5 years. It's a good benchmark to see just how hard Nier has been training.
My sword is lighter. It's not the blade, but the skill of the user. Strike it down.
We crush the thing in a big magic hand. Emil then wishes Kaine to life, and despite his horrifying new appearance, Kaine treats him no differently. He even looks away, shocked she'll see him like this, and like a great friend, hell, a great person, she doesn't bat an eyelid. The gang's back together. We tell her it's been 5 years, and here we see the seed of a budding romance as Kaine looks at us longingly. We give her a lunar tear, trying to copy her grandmother's wreath. Sections of happiness like this are few and far between, and as the game says,
that is, until Devila and Popola had to go and ruin it all.
The townsfolk don't want Kaine and Emil around even after all they've done. Those two are unfazed, but Nier is furious, and rightly so. They should be treated as heroes, not monsters, one of them sacrificing herself for years. They leave to camp outside, and we realise Kaine's always slept outside. One for the sad counter. Despite the argy-bargy, we still need to go back to Popola and Devila for our next quest, finding the Shadowlord. We apologise for the outburst the day before. Popola brushes us off slightly, and then tells us she thinks the Lost Shrine Temple is related to the Shadowlord. We can use a boat to get to and from now, as the canal's been fixed. And Act 2 involves us visiting a lot of Act 1 areas and resolving plot threads where they've been left. It's quite nice, we've got some fast travel to do that with. The canal boat is actually driven by the red bag guy from the Seafront, who had that little side mission to find his wife who got mad he ate her apples. Turns out they're still doing fine. Talking about his wife like Maze Hughes from Fullmetal. We head off to the Lost Shrine, with Kaine and Skeletal Emil joining us. It's essentially the same dungeon and progression through the shrine, with not too much changing, just the enemy types and their placement. We do get this view of the reservoir under the shrine though, as we've gone through a different route. It's a slightly padded section, but allows us to hear the gossip discussing Kaine and Emil not being able to stay in the village, including Emil talking about how much he enjoys camping with Kaine.
Besides, I like camping with Kaine. Sometimes we sit around the fire and tell stories, or roast...
Emil, that's enough. I got a fucking image to maintain.
The real change comes when we enter the boss room. A rumbling shakes the place, and then Gretel comes jumping down, attacking us. It's seemingly leading a band of small shades. You can lead them into the light to weaken them, and when you do, Gretel will drop her shield, making herself more vulnerable. We fight her in an incredibly similar fashion to the first fight, with her having a couple of new attacks to throw at us. When we deal enough damage to trigger a cutscene, we get this back-to-back spanking of Nier and Kaine seemingly defeating her, then she gets up and starts rolling around like a Beyblade. Take her out a second time as we launch a magical attack, but she tries to parry it, seemingly impaling Kaine through the heart. We take Gretel down, but it looks like this is the end of the road for Kaine. Even Weiss has no clue how to save her until the black scroll covers her body, and she seems to turn into a shade, pulling the thing free and starting a second boss fight, this time against a bestial Kaine. The shade within her has taken over, and she fights in a more feral format, jumping around the walls and such. She has a very weak health bar, so you will blast her down, saving her from going fully berserk, and somehow pulling her back to her usual self. Emil goes on a rampage telling her to never give up and never die as she's his friend. We've saved her and recovered what looks like a mysterious stone cipher from this boss room. When we tell Popola about it, she uncovers it's part of a larger key to the Shadowlord's castle, with 4 other pieces each having their own titles, the law of robotics, sacrifice, the memory tree, and loyal Cerberus, each of them relating to another area we've been to previously. It sounds repetitive, but there's enough change to make it worthwhile. This is the section where the story picks up. Bonus points if you can line up the keys at this point. The quest branches out, letting us go for either the law of robotics or the memory tree first. When we go to the junk heap, we're treated to a sepia-tone cutscene of an event that's happened in the past. Gideon and Jacob are deep in the heap looking for scrap when Gideon causes some debris to fall. Jacob saves him at the cost of his own life. And it's really brutal of a cutscene. The worst bit being when Gideon tries to pull him free, he pulls off Jacob's arm, or at least that's the implication. Now the boy's lost his mum and his brother to the heap, all while this giant wind-up looking robot watches on. Gideon blaming it for the calamity. Add 1 to the sad counter. Gideon has aged up slightly in the 5 years and lets us know his brother's been dead for 4 of those. We ask him about shades around here, but we're not given much information. Gideon does, however, give us a weapon for free and asks us to go deeper into the junk heap for some materials to upgrade it. It's a bit like the first run through where we need to go in and kill certain robots for certain upgrade materials. The group all natter on about Gideon and his brother while we do this, but essentially, we're taking an elevator down and fighting hordes of robots until we come across the wind-up ones. This time we've got Kaine and Emil, but it does feel a little bit samey up to the mini-bosses. What a cool mini-boss it is though. The mechanics are slightly annoying with it having an AoE radius we can't be in on the floor, but it attacks in such a cool robotic way, spinning around and the like. Kill it, get a memory alloy, and get out. Gideon will start upgrading our new sword, and unfortunately this section has a bit of a false start, with us not getting part of the cipher yet, but having to come back when we've completed another section. For the sake of pacing, I'm going to warp the timeline for a bit and resolve this section early. We get our new weapon back and Gideon goes a bit crazy, telling us he doesn't want payment, he just wants us to kill the robot that took out his brother. Allegedly, it's working with a shade, and he's been preparing to kill it for years himself. We dive through the arena, going through the exact same route we went through for the memory alloy, Nier not really questioning a robot working with a shade, and just wanting to take the shade out. We get to the boss room to see one of those wind-up robots with a little shade sat atop its head. Its eyes glow yellow like it's possessed, and it starts blasting. There's a few moveset switch-ups, but it's just a case of dodge and smack while avoiding the ground for most of the fight. As we lower its health further and further, the thing talks throughout the fight, wanting to exterminate us, wanting to defend its mission, it states, and at halfway point, growing wings and using magnetism, becoming a real nuisance, dropping things on us. It tells us to escape, to seek the world, and it's clear whatever's going on, it's almost against this thing's will, those damn shades. We take out the toy soldier, the shade, and Gideon comes in kicking the robot's corpse, the shade really taking a back seat in this encounter. Gideon is having a total mental breakdown here. Having blamed the robots for all the troubles in his life, consumed by revenge, we leave him with that part of the cipher. Add 1 to the sad counter for that. The memory tree is another text adventure just like the last time we were here in the Forest of Myth. The tree starts talking to us and we're pulled into a dream sequence where the tree seems to be the master of memory, collecting knowledge and memories about everything contained in this world. We fight, quote unquote, a shade here, just trying to steal the memories from the tree, and after doing such, answering a few riddles while we do. The last one includes who is the most important thing in this world, and we can only reply back with Yona, and it's the quickest cipher part by far. For the sacrifice cipher, Popola sends us to the Aerie. Turns out the place is opening itself up, no longer being filled with hermits. One of the villagers there should be able to talk to us about the cipher. We rush on over, full of confidence we're about to meet some new friends. Of course, getting there, nothing's visibly changed at a first glance, and the spooky music in the background really doesn't help. When we go to speak to random villagers in their huts, they're still distraught and distressed. One saying they don't believe in anything anymore, another saying it's all over. When we go to the chief's hut, he's convinced the village is doomed and has no clue about any letter that was sent to Popola. Something's not adding up right here. We can bash our heads against villager huts, but the game wants us to uncover the small settlement being formed on one of the platforms we fought Hook on previously. You can use the shops here, or speak to the guard who, when we say we want to kill all the shades, then turns into one. Who knew these things could pretend to be humans, and more disturbingly, how many of them are pretending to be humans? We've sprung some trap made for us as the village erupts with shades, and it becomes hard to tell who's a shade and who isn't. You're even able to accidentally hit some of the real human guards here. It's such an interesting angle to have half normal villagers and half sneaky invaders, as you're constantly worrying about friendly fire here. Nothing happens if you wipe them, of course, but it's not going to make us look good to the survivors. Fight far enough and we'll see Kaine fighting a human-like shade, being able to sniff them out of her possessed heart. The shade has a human brother though, who watches as Kaine cuts her down, branding us all monsters. But shades are evil, right? Right?
You people are the monsters here!
Stay back, kid. Your sister is one of them now.
Kaine takes us astray, and we fight our way through to a massive swirling shadow. The villagers begging for weapons to be dropped, and it's intentionally vague if it's aimed at us or at the shades here. Defeat a bit of an armoured mook boss to uncover the real thing. A giant eldritch orb of shadow, the black runes swirling around it and the thing defying all laws of physics. This is where the game takes a huge turn, dipping into that threat of something much larger than us. And it's the first boss to look really so unusual. The thing has some understandable dialogue, being unaware of its own personality. Perhaps it's a mass of shades that have coalesced. Either way, we need to use magic exclusively here to hit its eye when it's vulnerable, eventually ripping its fleshy growths away and opening up for an attack by Emil. A proper re-screech that only a neat could pull out. The thing's entirely shielded now, but Emil takes it on while we route round to attack it from the back. There's a lot of moving across the Aerie until it's taken out, with Nier and Emil combining their magical attacks to hit it in one synchronised blast. Emil going above and beyond to the point where we dispatch the creature, piercing it entirely. But then, well...
Emil, wait!
Emil starts to lose a grip on his own powers, not knowing where the off switch is as he explodes into this giant purple orb. All we can do at this point is run away to a safe distance as we see the Aerie itself being destroyed entirely. Every human, every shade, we're the only three to make it out. The sad music begins to play as Emil is distraught at his actions, his unwilling actions, as he's caused the deaths of many innocents here. He's a very sensitive child who just wants to help the good guys and save the day. Even if he's a weapon, he's our friend though, right? So we comfort him as best we can, telling him not to look back as we find the sacrifice cipher fragment here, leaving like nothing happened at all. We just need one more key to get to the Shadowlord. The ferryman we normally use to get around has stopped turning up for work, probably having another argument with his wife. It's a mirror to the quest earlier in the game where this happened, but we're returning to Seafront with more context. This time the wife has saved up a sum of apples, and when he ate them, she got angry. He took off, so we've got to repeat our actions from earlier to find him. A resident in the tavern flirts with us, we go hunting for the man in various places, starting with the village, then the post office. All throughout, Weiss is monologuing about love and the beauty of writing letters. The postman tells us of a shipwreck on the beach where the man might be. In fact, a few people who are missing might be there. It's not often something like that happens. Adding to the list of things that don't often happen, we actually see Kaine and Emil in town, with Kaine sensing something strange coming from the ship. There's a hole on the bottom floor we can enter, and as soon as we go in, Kaine starts to feel incredibly uncomfortable, heading out pretty much instantly with Emil and letting us explore on our own. It's a 2D side-scrolling section with no combat just yet, but there is a ghost girl who enters rooms and disappears. When we follow her inside, she's gone. The superstitious Weiss is not enjoying it one bit. We dive deeper and deeper, finding keys and signs of our apple-loving canal boat driver. The ship also seems to be some sort of slave ship, but well, there's nobody aboard. Eventually, we hear a strange humming, and following it, we drop into darkness. Spilling our lantern away, we have to find it in the pitch blackness.
Weiss, that's it!
About time. Oh dear, they are all people from town.
Oh no, this can't be real.
Grabbing it, lighting up the room, reveals corpses across the ground. People from the town, the ferryman, all killed indiscriminately. It's a really messed up sight. As we close in on the perpetrator, Emil and Kaine come back, us going into a room with a ghost girl, a save box outside signalling things are about to get rough. Inside is the young ghost girl with her hands up, acting like a defenseless woman. The postman from town comes in weirdly, and it seems he's been coming here keeping the girl company, but he's been unaware of her extracurricular activities. When Kaine shouts for him to stay back, the girl's eyes glow and black tentacles fly out of her. She chases the postman as he falls lower, and the group is split up. We then have to fight our way out, blasting through giant tentacles and avoiding magic attacks as we end up in an arena on top of the ship. The girl has become a giant multi-headed kaiju, seemingly regenerating faster than the sun can damage her. She looks like Kerrigan in her shade form, weirdly enough. We have to dodge around, avoiding her massive damaging attacks and hitting the heads that sprout off her. She really does take a step up compared to the other bosses. Eventually, doing enough damage, we decapitate her and send the shade hurtling to the sea.
Did we get it?
We think the fight's over, but it's just a fake out when more tentacles sprout, destroying the ship and taking the fight to the sands. She grows larger to almost godlike proportions as we have to fight this hulking monstrosity firing literal missiles at us. Kaine takes the postman hostage and we launch a combined attack on her, doing heavy damage visibly, but in reality the thing just regenerates. We lack the damage to blast her down, and she hits us with this giant sonic attack, paralysing the group as she charges up a killing blow. We're helpless until the postman jumps in, seemingly grabbing her attention. Enraged that the girl has betrayed his trust, he buys us enough time to launch one spear. We've got one half of the story here, we'll get the rest later on, but for now the creature is dispatched. Seafront is safe, and she seems sad in her death, staring out at sea and just accepting her fate. No key this time, but one more for the sad counter. Return home and a letter details the King of Facade is getting married, and we're invited to attend. Perhaps the last key is there. We head to the King's chambers in Facade to discover his new bride is none other than the girl Fira, the woman who gave us the tour of the place and led us to save the King back in Act 1. The King demands we all stay in the royal chambers for the night. It's a rare moment of respite where we actually get to speak to every member of our party. Kaine doesn't believe she should be present because it's a festive occasion, the night before a wedding. What if she's scaring the rest of the populace? Weiss hits her with this barb.
Will you at least procure a new set of lingerie for the festivities? Some spring colours, perhaps?
Keep talking, book.
We head upstairs to Emil, and he's having trouble sleeping and is happy about the wedding too. Too excited, in fact, to settle down. He wishes he was Fira, and when we tell him he'll find a nice bride someday, he reveals he actually wants to be the bride. He does this when Nier's left the room. Emil is a gay king. The King of Facade is feeling the stress of his position, famine looming and the wolves on the outskirts of Facade causing issues. We tell him life is easier when you have someone to fight for, and he says he might make that a new rule. We flash to the wedding. The whole township is out dancing and celebrating, tossing flowers and confetti, and generally having a good time. The wedding begins, and the king and new queen address the populace right as a battered soldier comes stumbling in, warning us the wolves are coming. A warning that comes too late as the Shade Wolf grabs Fira and slams her against the scenery here.
Fira!
Luckily, they have 3 Shade Killers in attendance, and we slap the wolves down, having to get used to their acrobatic fighting style and their leader's immunity to magical damage. Take it down low enough and it summons all the wolves to flee, leaving us to examine Fira and the situation. The king is holding her bloodied corpse, manic that his wife is on her deathbed. She's concerned more with the people being nervous than her own state, but it becomes clear they've lost their queen. She thanks him for making someone like her his bride, passing on in his arms. You guessed it, one more for the sad counter. The king declares war on the wolves, and we're here to assist him in avenging Fira. As we go to leave, along with the king, his advisor is warning him from going alone, blocking our path with various soldiers. It looks like he isn't going to let us pass when he begins to speak about the kingdom loving their queen. The soldiers of Facade will be joining us to take on the wolves. We teleport to a boss room in the desert, having to take out many wolves immediately attacking the king before the doggo leading them will jump down. When he does, it's a fairly rinse-repeat fight to take it out. He's suitably weaker than the boss at Seafront, and there's a little bit of a balancing issue with some of these late game bosses, where some are complete cakewalks like this one and others not so. When we beat him, we smack him against the brickwork in a scene that mirrors Fira's death. The king is the one to take the wolf out though. We obtain our final fragment and the king buries his bride far too early in her lifetime. Heading back to Deviler and Popola, they tell us we should take the stone keys to the lost shrine. We can finally take down the Shadowlord. I'm going to be condensing this part down considerably, but I counted and there's roughly 5 sad counter entries here. The run to the lost shrine is now filled with heavily armoured shades, making it a real battle to get up to the room where Hansel and Gretel were housed. Getting there is a magical ward with a warning that once we enter we can't turn back, as we step through heading to the Shadowlord's castle. The architecture here, the likes of which we really haven't seen, it's clean, manicured and reflecting modern aristocracy. We enter a statue garden, the only things we can interact here being 2 doves in a bird bath. They speak fluent English.
Show itself, you must answer.
It can talk!
I ask, why did humans disappear from the world?
The hell is this?
It asks us some history questions to open the door ahead of them. If you try and go through early, you just walk back around to the one you came in. We lack the answers, but Weiss himself knows them. Why did the humans disappear from this world? The Black Disease. How can humans extend their lives? By separating body from soul. What is the destination of souls? They are placed in their corresponding shells. This doesn't make sense now, but it will later, and quite soon later. We advance, coming to an atrium room with, very strangely, Deviler and Popola present. They kindly ask us to turn around. This is a dangerous place where we probably can't get Yona out of. Their tone changes drastically and they won't answer our questions. We tell them we're here to save Yona, starting a boss fight against the two.
We didn't want to fight you. We really didn't want to.
They're crazy strong magic users, being able to teleport and cast all manner of nasty spell. Their health pools are quite low though. Worst of all, they tell us they didn't even want to fight. They call Weiss a traitor and midway through the battle shock him, dealing heavy damage, but also copying the sealed verses held within him. They can use our magic attacks against us now, and they tell us the power came from them originally, which is very, very strange. Weiss doesn't seem to be doing good either, as his voice becomes all grainy and staticky.
Weiss, are you alright?
Despite asking them why they're siding with the Shades, they still give us no answer. We knock just a little bit of sense into them, and they say our answers will be held within the heart of the Shadowlord, and that we need to find the truth there. Instead of dying, they fly away and tell us to enter the Shadowlord's castle. We raise the fact the twins are fighting us with Weiss, and his mind and tongue become, well, electrical.
How odd. For long years, my mind and tongue have been my greatest assets. But now the latter seems to be...
I'm adding 1 to the sad counter for being manipulated and used by the twins we've grown up trusting. Our next room is filled with spectral ghosts dancing in a ballroom. It's a grand affair, as Weiss states, but it's soon revealed they're all Shades, as they slowly turn into monsters in an attempt to overwhelm us. It's another combat section until Kaine tries to open up the door by force, leading us to this funny scene.
Damn no good bullshit bastard! Open the fuck up already! Ugh! Got it.
Kaine, look out!
It's like she's in a ball pit getting swarmed, like that episode of Peep Show.
That's fine. I imagine. Probably some funny buried clown.
We take out the black balls and go to rescue Kaine from the ground, as the balls all combine together into a big boar-shaped megazord. We slap down the shade boar without too much effort, the thing taking the shape of a boar but not its strength. Unfortunately, a second, stronger one comes in, and this one's got better regen than the sea monster. It just simply refuses to die. Seriously, every time you smack it down, its health bar refills and it just keeps coming. It eventually chases us upstairs and we rinse repeat, only being saved by a stray spear that comes flying into it. Another and another, until it's revealed the soldiers of Facade are here to give us some backup. They honestly stand no chance, but do hold up enough of a fight to repay their debt and get us deeper into the Shadowlord's castle. We're forced out of the room, with the king promising to see us again after this is all over. When we defeat the Shadowlord, we'll know the joy of having someone by our side. He's echoing our own words about Fira back at us. It cuts to black as the Facadians charge the boar, but we're forced to leave them to their fate, Kaine shaking some sense into us, making sure they didn't die for nothing. Add a 1 for the sad counter, you can guess how they went. Next, we find Deviler and Popola again sat in some big boardroom chairs with an abandoned cityscape behind them, something that's been hidden from us until now. They give some well-needed context to the past, refreshing Weiss about us and Project Gestalt. They give us some documents on the project, but they also tell us some things outright. Deviler and Popola aren't humans, they're androids. Nier, Kaine, they're both not humans, they're shells made to house a human soul. They're called replicants. The shades are twisted remnants of the original humanity, souls that were meant to be placed in matching shells once the outbreak that caused the Black Scroll was dealt with. When a shade goes crazy from being suspended too long, it's known as a Gestalt. The shells, basically every human, quote unquote, we've seen so far, except Emil, are replicants. The replicants at one point or another gain sentience, messing with the whole putting a soul inside them aspect. Deviler and Popola have been overseeing Project Gestalt with the goal of restoring humanity by placing these souls inside of bodies. The Shadowlord exists to stop as many of these shades going Gestalt before this can happen.
You have your own motives, your own desires. And we have ours. I fear it really is just that simple.
Don't speak such foolishness.
We fight the twins, knocking Deviler down to the point where she dies, leaving only Popola, who has a full mental breakdown of her twin sister of 1,000 years dying. We try to de-escalate and talk her down, but the rage of a surviving twin wants us to keep fighting. Or I guess Deviler died for nothing. It doesn't matter how we try to talk to her, she's not hearing it.
Popola, wait! It doesn't have to—
No one stops! It's way too late to stop! No one stops!
Even raising the fact the twins were like parents to Nier, that we don't want to fight her, but unfortunately, backed into a corner, it's our only option. Add 1 on the sad counter for Deviler. At this point in the fight, it's easy to smack her down and take us to a cutscene. Now there's only one route forward, a big bridge, and Popola destroys that with a big blast of uncontrolled magic. Emil captures us in a big ball and copies their flying techniques from earlier. For a moment, it looks like we're getting away, then Popola grabs the ball. Weiss thinks we're done for, but Emil says it'll be alright.
You know, when I was young, I hated my eyes. But there's something else there now. Something like pride, you know?
The boy has pride in himself for becoming our friend, saying those dreaded words of goodbye and thank you for everything. He used to think all he could do was destroy, but now is his chance to save someone, to save us. Emil proudly sacrifices himself for his friends, and this scene made me cry. Pretty much every single time I looked at it. It made me weep. Emil is the most kind-hearted person in this world, and he's already been through so much. All he wanted was to be our friend, and it cost him his life. His final words cutting through me like a knife.
I want to see you again. I want to see all of you again. Just one more time. I'm scared. I don't want to die.
Man, I Genuinely started tearing up writing this script, rewatching the clip. One for the sad counter. As we destroy Popola at the cost of a truly kind soul, when we think the cutscene is over, it pans to the Shadowlord stood next to Yona, watching her in bed. If you've not drawn the conclusion yet, you should be able to tell that the Shadowlord is Nier's original soul. The Shadowlord is Nier from the Prologue, he is the Gestalt, and the Nier we play now is the Replicant. Both are fighting over who gets Yona's body, us to take it home and him to put his sister's soul into it. Kaine and Nier weep for Emil, with Kaine grabbing us as we've barely any time to mourn the loss of a true friend. There's a look that goes on slightly too long as we slump to the floor and Kaine tells us it's time to go. This is it. The Shadowlord must die for all the pain he's caused us and our friends. Nobody else is dying here but him. Fight through 3 corridors full of shades, a last guard before we can get to the room with Yona present. As we enter, we go to run to Yona to be stopped by the Shadowlord, having to deal with Noir first, smashing the book into a pile of pages with record time. The Shadowlord then comes down to face us, using our own moveset and a few extra attacks to add to it. When it's at half health, we can see Yona get out of bed, stepping past us, and referring to the Shadowlord as brother. Well, it looks like he won that race. She tells him she doesn't want to do this anymore, she doesn't want someone else's body. If it was an empty shell that would be fine, but modern day Yona's soul is inside this shell, and she can hear her, she wants to see her brother. The fight stops as Yona, Gestalt Yona, walks to a set of curtains, keeping the light out of the room. She swings them open, and chooses to leave the body she's possessing, but no matter what, she says she loves her brother. Unfortunately, the player and our avatar aren't on the same wavelength. We've just watched Prologue Nier's sister die to save our Yona, so add 1 to the sad counter. The Shadowlord gets up, wanting to destroy us for what we've done, and he flies around the room blasting magic everywhere, just being a general nuisance. We do enough damage to push Weiss to his limit, causing the book to fall to the floor. Weiss is now on the verge of death, but realises he has one task left to fulfill, stopping Grimoire Noir and whatever his godly plans were. He buys us time to defeat the Shadowlord. Replicant Nier gets uppity that we swore to fight by the book's side, and the book reflects on how much he's enjoyed his time with us and his change of name.
Perhaps that's why I've so enjoyed our time together. But I fear this is where our journey ends.
Weiss!
Oh, and remember what I told you about using my full name. Well, forget it. I've grown rather fond of Weiss.
Again, more tears on my part, 1 to the sad counter, as another member of the team sacrifices themselves for the greater good. We've got no magic now, but only need to dispatch the Shadowlord with a handful of attacks. It's less of a battle at this point and more an exercise in spamming the dodge button as we finally slay the beast, slashing him down as it fades to black. We go and comfort Yona and hear the disembodied voice of Weiss now lacking his physical form. He tells us Yona is safe, but we must call her back to us using the memories we've spent with her. We have to answer a simple question. Who does Yona love more than anyone? You type in the name of your character. Drawing her back to life, we rescue her. She acts like she's been Sleeping Beauty from a fairy tale this whole time. As we hug her, Kaine goes to leave, even when we offer her to stay with us. She says she's got her own shit to take care of and not elaborating more. This isn't how it's supposed to end, and the group is now gone as Yona is safe. Kaine gone, Emil and Weiss are dead, but as the cutscene pans out, at least Yona and Nier from the Prologue, the true human souls, have found themselves together in heaven. Okay, maybe it's bittersweet, but there's one happy ending aspect to Ending A. What if I told you we need to replay Act 2 4 more times now to catch all of the endings? I'm going to cover what changes in each loop to the best of my ability, and I'll be skipping unless there's some new content. We'll say how the endings differ, we'll look at Ending E's new content, and try to sum up what actually happened in this game concisely. On to loop 2. The game is pretty oppressive for making you do several loops of it for all the endings. One of the endings requiring you to collect all of the weapons in the game. The saving graces are there's new cutscenes, you keep everything moving forward into the next loop, and generally the loops go faster each time round. There's a tiny bit of new content added in some of the subsequent loops gameplay wise, but a lot of it's stuck to cutscenes. We're going to be keeping these sections tight though, condensing as many of these loops as we can. Each new loop starts us midway through Act 2, right as we're about to unpetrify Kaine. Loop 2 having specific focus on Kaine, with text memories revealing that she's always been cursed, even before she met Tyran, the shade that possessed her. She was bullied from a young age due to her being intersex, so she had both gametes. She's seen as a bad omen from the townsfolk. She was ostracised and beaten, except by an adoptive grandmother who looked after her. There's a ton of scenes here describing Kaine's growth both as a swordswoman and a character as a whole, fully embracing being a woman thanks to her grandmother. She goes out to get medicine for her grandmother one day, and that's when her grandmother was taken by the shade known as Hook, the boss from the Aerie. When her grandmother died, that's when something broke inside of Kaine. We then cut to gameplay defeating the basement dweller as we did before, getting a second memory after. Kaine tried to kill Hook but was defeated. She made a pact with a shade, Tyran, who now lives within her heart. She'll share Tyran's power, but if her heart ever stops caring for revenge, he'll take over her body. She's fueled on bloodlust, hence why she walked away at the end of Ending A, and hence why she's happy with a difficult life. She's scared if things do get easier, or if she opens up to anyone fully, she'll be taken over. Some of the bosses, well most of them, have new dialogue reflecting what we learned about the shades being the true souls of humans. When we see Gretel recovering from the death of Hansel, she's sentient. She also believes the shades to be just monsters, she's different to them, and we're fed bits and pieces as we traverse the shrine in Loop 2, it being revealed she was never leading the shades after all, but they'd healed her broken heart, brought her back from the brink of depression and gave her friendship. She wanted to live the rest of her life with these young shades in peace, probably the spirits of children if we infer from their size. It's implied at some point that the shrine itself is just a place where broken shades go to exist. We're basically cutting our way through a hospital here. Of course, Nier bursts into the boss room. The boss has subtitles now we're fighting it again, and really it's only fighting us to defend these young shades, sacrificing herself in the hopes they'll survive. The worst part is, the monster fully understands us, even if we don't her, revealing that every shade and pretty much every boss we've taken down so far has essentially been a cold-blooded murder. Sad counter. Big sad counter. We hear Tyran talking to Kaine during combat from this loop onwards.
Oh, you're funny. I'm gonna start crying here.
And the strange grey area is, it seems Kaine's aware of this secret. She can hear what the bosses are saying too, but she's so blinded by rage she's discounted them as monsters even though they're not. She does feel bad about it, but she can't abandon her bloodlust, and she can't explain anything to us either, or we'd never understand. When Kaine's pierced through the heart, Tyran does have a funny reaction to it.
Oh, you're kidding me!
We hunt for the ciphers as normal in all the loops. When we get to the junkyard, it's revealed the brothers were hunting shades down here, most likely to avenge their mother, though the shade who rode the robot was a young child, and we watch his mother sacrifice herself to protect him. These shades are just regular people. In fact, a lot of them reflect these human stories, like the mother being killed and the children being abandoned. Sad counter. With the mum gone, P33 comes in on the child and pities him for crying. Throughout the whole junkyard section, we see clips of the two befriending each other, bonding over their creators being dead.
Because we are friends.
Learning new things from each other, the robot learning about human emotion, the shade learning about the outside world, and it becomes clear in the boss fight the robot isn't possessed, he's protecting his friend. When he shouts for us to get away and see the world, he's saying that to the shade, Khalil, it's got a name. He didn't even touch Jacob, but Gideon didn't care. Sad counter. The Aerie doesn't really change too much, just the context being different now we know the shades are playing house. There's a reason they all act so distraught with us, and it's because from their perspective, we're just slaughterers. There's a tech scene of Emil petrifying his sister when she became the ultimate weapon, and the pain he was subjected to at the testing facility, basically being abused by his caretakers, really only caring for wanting a family, which he does end up getting, and then losing in Loop A. Sad counter. The wolf in Facade was just defending his fellow wolves. Originally he was a loyal dog for some desert master, probably a former king of Facade. His words echo the prince's in pretty much all the cutscenes, sometimes being bar for bar, with each one considering the other a ruthless killer. They're very powerful, moving scenes, especially when you realise both but neither faction are in the right. They could have been friends. Sad counter. The ghost ship girl, she wanted to live a normal life, but she actually was a bit evil. To become human, she thought she could eat humans and that would somehow fix her. But there's a lot of cutscenes dedicated to her befriending the postman to the point he wanted to adopt her. She never learns to speak English, but she does learn to hum from him and to read and write. Sad counter. In Loop 3 we get an extension to her fight where we can climb up her and finish her off at sea, the result of which being a letter getting passed to the postman by Kaine, written by the girl.
It says, "Thank you." Wow, look at this. After all that time I spent trying to teach her to write, she actually managed to string together a few ugly little letters.
It just says the word thanks, as the man had taught her to write while attempting to be a surrogate father. Second sad counter. The endings themselves aren't necessarily alternate paths, they sort of continue on from each other as we advance, and we'll touch on those next. Ending B starts off as we're about to smack the Shadowlord down, Nier hesitating slightly as he chops his own soul in two, the Shadowlord dissipating into, well, shadow after a long drawn out fight. He sits depressed in some sort of afterlife for causing Yona pain, for failing to save her like he set out to do. Then he remembers the store they hid in before he found the book. Yona splitting her cookie with him, and Nier having gone through struggles both after and before his soul was stripped from his body. He reflects on his failures. We see the bosses in the background as people who died, but then he sees Yona in the afterlife, offering one last cookie. While he couldn't save her body, they'll be together in the afterlife. This ending also shows us something extra. Emil's head goes full max velocity into the desert, and it turns out he survived that big energy attack he used on Popular, and well, he's just ahead. He rolls off trying to find a new body, and a strangely comedic scene after all that trouble. The big touch point on this ending is that Gestalt Nier and Replicant Nier are pretty much the same person, and I imagined the Nier we played as would react in exactly the same way if he couldn't save Yona. It's two sides to the same coin, just like we spoke about with this developer. Ending C and D are tied to one another. In both, we get Kaine's perspective as she watches Nier and Yona stood by the curtains of Shadowlord HQ. Her bloodlust is gone, now replaced by a love for Nier himself. The black scroll inside her is taking over as part of Tyrann's bargain, though he doesn't seem to like this either. She's made the killing machine feel human emotion by housing him for long enough, but he's decided he wants to swallow her up anyway. Kaine requests that we kill her because with Emil gone, there's nobody left that can stop her if Tyrann takes full control.
Please. Before it comes to that, I want you to kill me. Consider it enough of a request.
It's very sad, given we've passed the final hurdle. 1 to the sad counter. We fight against a buffed up version of Shadow Kaine, taking her so close to the edge of beating her that we can suddenly hear Tyrann talk. It doesn't appear he's actually in control of Shade possessed Kaine, maybe she's gone Gestalt and is just firing all sorts of magic around. He's just as invested in saving her as we are, strangely enough though. I can never quite grasp his motivations or the limits of his powers. When we defeat Kaine, Tyrann pins her down and gives us an ultimatum. There are two ways we can save Kaine: either kill her and free her from the pain of her life, or make her a normal human being again, but to do that you have to trade your existence for hers. This is the first time Nier and Tyrann speak, and it becomes clear they both do love her in some way, shape or form. Ending C involves us just killing Kaine conventionally. We watch her crumble to ash and the two almost kiss, Nier dropping his sword as he has a bit of a mental break.
Kaine, let's go home.
Tyrann does comfort Nier, telling us that we did actually free her from all her negative emotions. That Kaine's gone to heaven, she's been judged and she's passed. We even get one last thank you from her, sad counter of course.
Thank you.
Ending D got the game some notoriety. When Tyrann said we must trade our existence for hers, he wasn't kidding. You make this bargain and you watch the game painstakingly delete all of your save files, every quest, every item. It scrubs through the whole book, removing it all, forcing you to bear the weight of your choice. Afterwards, Kaine wakes up, not exactly knowing why she was here, but just assuming she was the one who helped Yona. In this world, there was no Nier from the village, only the Shadowlord. The universe has settled the books by making Yona assume Kaine was her protector, not Nier. Kaine gets some flashes of Nier like she's forgotten something important and she cries, but he's wiped. Gone. He never existed. Until Loop 4. One on the sad counter for people who did Loop 3 and didn't know about Loop 4. Oh yeah baby, get ready for the finale. We're pulling out all the stops. Robot Kaine's, digital hooks, naked Nier. Let's get a look at the secret ending E and Nier Replicant so we can finish this video off. Start a new game using a different character name and play through Act 1 as normal until the second encounter with Hook in the Aerie. When we go to revive Kaine, the cutscene changes drastically and we're pulled back into the old timeline. Kaine remembers partially that someone saved her in the Hook fight, but of course that person doesn't exist anymore. So she awakes in her hut with a sense of deja vu deviating from the loops we've seen previously, and actually making Kaine our protagonist for this loop. She plays differently to Nier and her combat is exceptionally fun, despite her having no magic, with her being a full bona fide human again. I'd arguably say her loop is actually worth the fuss, both for the continuation of the story and just how fun she is to play. For one, we have her wonderful narration, and combat wise things switch up with her charge attacks being huge spins, and her parries these huge anime moves that slice up a wide area around her. We find a guard in peril by Yona's village, apparently trying to head to the Forest of Myth. We dispatch a load of armoured shades and decide to go in his place given how weak he was. Anime running over. The Forest of Myth is a massacre site, bodies of the villagers there slaughtered, and a magical seal on the tree itself. Robots pouring out of the thing, which I believe to be reskins of the robots from the junk heap. They definitely seem more advanced though in design. Take them out and the seal disappears, inviting us to go inside the tree. The mayor can be spoken to and he tells us what we already know, that the robots came out of the tree and did this. Jumping inside, it becomes clear the tree stretches for miles. Voices ring out, calling it a sea of humanity, the cemetery of human punishment. We're told we're a replicant, a manufactured existence, and they know our name.
Individual name, Kaine.
The tree itself is an information management database, essentially a black box for the world and all who lived within it for use in Project Gestalt. The voices tell us we brought an end to this by killing the Shadowlord, and the rest of the Gestalts will go wild if they've not already, as they've nowhere to go. This will lead to the death of many replicants due to the Black Scrawl coming back. Their voices are monotone, but they don't sound too sympathetic to us, given we've messed up their life's work. The scenery of the memory tree is really cool, a mismatch of various root systems of wires getting more mechanical the deeper we go, until the thing looks utterly alien, like a human wouldn't have even conceived its schematics. This alien theme continues as we advance, spotting two children forming themselves from the cables. Their introductions don't go well. These children are actually the administrators of this forest, as they call it.
How nice of you to join us.
Yes, how nice of you to join us.
We are the administrators.
They are likely responsible for the Gestalt project's management, being able to work with Deviler and Popola to keep the world running and occasionally pop out to recycle the vessels of the world into fresh ones. They find Kaine interesting, sending a boss at us but using it to gauge our current combat potential, as they then decide to do something crazy.
We have reproduced you at the point in your journey in which you were strongest.
Creating dozens of mechanical copies of us right at the point where Kaine was possessed by a shade. It's very unclear what they're doing with us at this point, and in their defense we did barge in here ourselves. Being as they could just replace us with a copy, they probably don't see the faux pas in killing us now by sending all these brittle copies at us. Of course, I did notice at this point I lacked any healing items, and realised this was going to be one big battle of attrition. Stuff starts to look bleak for us indeed, with the admins beckoning if we've reached our end, and the perspective shifting to isometric to show us the amount of copies coming at us, before it switches to a cutscene of Kaine in deep doo-doo.
You little fuckers.
And honestly, my favourite moment in this game, Emil pops out of the woodwork, body intact, ready to help his friend now that he's somehow gained a body back and some extra arms. We're going to strike one off the sad counter for this. Emil spots a way out of this mess by destroying an energy source here, while we deal with some girl-on-girl action. The admins know of Emil, calling him number 7 and giving us the rundown about him that we already knew. It's so strange that they've observed our whole journey essentially. During this fight, Kaine starts to get deja vu about Nier, which the admins pick up on as some sort of singularity event, calling it fascinating like they've not encountered it before. Emil clears the path forward like the Chad he is, and we push deeper into what looks like a partially digital world. The admins tell us beyond here lies that which is lost. Heading deeper, the landscape changes entirely and it stretches for miles. In this universe, magic exists, so we could be seeing some advanced machine magic crossover here, warping time and space. The low poly surroundings quickly turn into that of the Shadowlord's castle, just with a ton of the detail broken down. Emil and Kaine both start describing their shared feelings of deja vu, Emil admitting that he made a promise to someone about eating something delicious, but not knowing who or what. We pass through a dark tunnel, heading to a huge magical power surrounded by renders of tower blocks. The door here, of course, reflecting the boss door for the Shadowlord. The admins tell us this is a special place to us and to the world. The core frame of the forest is here, and we have to dodge various magical bolts to slap it down, and recover the memories we've lost. The admin says it's more accurate to say the world we lost, like we hop to a new one. As we smash the block, we start to hear Nier's voice lines, but have no recollection of who they belong to. The music amps up as we smash the core, and Kaine gets very angry, warping us somewhere new entirely. Somewhere that seems entirely digital with the UI and graphical overlay reflecting this, even the load screen changes. We're inside Kaine's memories. The admins toy with us here, bringing back some of our old memories to teach Kaine and the player about the Gestalt project, in case you missed the rundown earlier. We're a foreign entity created by someone else. The shades we slaughtered were the true humans of the world. We see the robot from the scrap heap, and the admins say it how it is. During every fight, Kaine heard all the shades' cries for help. She heard all their stories, and we chose to ignore them and push on. Gretel appears with a message about how our friends make us complete, but we smack her down. The screen fading out as we've been travelling deeper into our memories. The admins bring out our worst memory, Hook, who had stolen our grandma. They've adjusted the data from our memory to make the thing even bigger and stronger, I imagine as an act of revenge for us destroying the Gestalt project, or maybe just trying to see the limits of how far Kaine can go. The boss's health bar and damage are immense. It's getting to the point where we're overwhelmed by damage, and we drop to the floor, going into a tech section, a false world where our grandma's still alive in the Aerie, only for the admins to tear it away from us cruelly, leaving us in a black void. While Kaine struggles in this black void, we hear a voice of one of our companions to spur us on, a copy of our memory of a certain grimoire.
Are you truly so daft that you have already forgotten one of your beloved travelling companions and friends?
Coming in clutch at just the right moment to harpoon a Hook and have a touching moment with us.
You've not time to become lost in your thoughts.
Right. Okay. Let's get him back!
We remember Nier. She remembers Nier. But now we need to go and get him back by defeating these admins and pulling his soul from their databanks. After so many loops, the return of our allies, both Emil and Weiss, are exceptionally welcomed. And Weiss continues to spur us on as we demolish this boss, using his magic to summon giant polygonal arms to smash this thing like we're using Star Platinum. The admins see the potential of one replicant having written them off as just hollow shells. Timelines blend, the pact Nier making with Tyrann being overwritten by one of the most moving speeches I've heard in any game ever.
Shut up, shut up! I already made up my mind. Nobody tells me what to do. I swore I would be a sword. I swore that I would be your sword. Do you hear me? So I am going to get you back, and I don't care what it takes. Who the fuck do you think you are to just up and disappear like that, huh? I'm the one who gets to decide what my life means to me. It's my life, and I'll do whatever I want with it. So quit wasting time like a brainless fuckwit, and get your ass back here now!
I cried watching that scene, every time during the recording and the editing. The screen fades to white and we're in a void with a copy of Nier from when he first visited the tree back in Act 2. The save data repopulates in front of us, every item, every word we'd lost, until we reach the final cutscene of Ending E. A giant lunar tear sprouting from where the tree was, and this thing is colossal. We've no frame of reference for if this happens whenever a replicant's made, or if some big magic is at work here, but I'll choose the latter, being as we're bringing back the one we cherish. Emil flies up to the tier to see Kaine holding a naked Nier. See, I promised you that. Our journey may have resulted in us dooming the world to perish, but
this is the world with the people we cherish.
A bittersweet ending. Happy and sad. We've got Nier back, but the replicants are likely to all succumb to the Black Scroll. Maybe, just maybe, they can be happy before they do though, and live their lives together. That was Nier. Let's conclude. Nier Replicant is really a story of loss and perseverance at its core. Nobody really gets a happy ending in this game. Eventually everyone we know and love dies, but just like reality, our lives still have meaning. Our connections to those around us, while not permanent, have meaning and are worth living. The world had succumbed to a great disease that we saw partially during the prologue. The powers that be splitting humanity from their souls in an attempt to put them into shells once the fallout had settled. They'd never planned for these shells to develop their own souls, their own sentience, and they never planned for some rogue replicants to end Project Gestalt. This game is an absolute saga. It may be slightly padded by the need to progress through several new game pluses, but the addition of very important scenes for context and the unravelling story that we weren't the good guys, that really there wasn't any good guys. It's a morally grey soup of people just trying to live their lives and save those closest to them regardless of the cost to others. It really does spur you on the story of this game. This game is an experience I hope that all of you can enjoy one day, even if you watch this video to completion. Really, nothing's ever been so moving to me, and it's made me want to play Automata, if it's even a fraction of the story that was told during Replicant. Over and out, Smooth Brains.
Alright, once again, from the top.
Dear players, the game is over, and we have a special message for you. Ready? 1, 2...
Thank you for playing!